Hi, this is Everett's Watercolors. Welcome to my classroom. Now today we're going to go over a demonstration of using the artist spray bottles. Now I've been experimenting with these and I've discovered some ideas and some techniques that I'd like to share with you. There'll be 3 videos I'm going to present. The first is I'm going to show how to make trees with just a spray bottle. The second one is going to be a crashing wave with just a spray bottle. And the third one will be a river using just a spray bottle. Now the palette and the bottle are an extension of your palette. So let's go over to my painting board and let's get started on a demonstration. Okay, on my painting board here now, I have set up here, I'm using a 1/4 sheet of Gemini watercolor paper. And I have 4 dot spray bottles here in front of me. One with the green number 1, cobalt blue, lemon yellow, and one with just water in it. Now with those 4 spray bottles, I'm going to create a row of trees. So with just spray bottles, we're going to do trees. Now first of all, I may put a little bit of drops of water on the, get the paper a little bit wet with water. And the first one I'm going to use a little bit of green number 1. And I'm going to, right now, I'm also designing the tree line. Let's see, some trees are going to be a little higher than others, some a little thicker. But this little dot pattern that I'm putting down here will give us an idea of where we're going to go. Now I'll pick up the cobalt blue. That'll be some of the shadow. Now I've noticed also in experimenting, the higher up I make it, the more dispersed the dots are. Now as I get closer to the paper, I can get a little denser dots. So I've learned just by moving the bottle up and down from the paper, I can get a different pattern of those dot spray. As I get closer, they're a little denser. As I get further back, they're a little more dispersed. And let's start with that. Now I just know the 2 colors, the blue and the green, and then I'm going to put a lot of water on here now because I want it to flow. So if you're using a dot spray with water in, you need a lot of water. So make sure it's full and ready to go before you get started. Now the fun part here is getting started with the flow here. Now I'm going to move horizontally, so I'm moving the board or the paper horizontally because that's the flow that I want to create on this particular demonstration. And I can move the paint up and down. Now I'm moving it horizontally, vertically now to get the paint to flow up and down vertically. And as I go along, I can also pick up the water bottle with just water, and I can add more pattern or more flow just by adding more water. So I'm designing the tree line by the water pattern, and then I'm moving the paint into that area. Okay. Now also with the lemon yellow, I can also put a little bit of highlights on the top of the trees, because that's where the sun will be shining. So now I introduce a little bit of the green, a little bit of yellow on top of the green to get a little lighter value. And as I've learned also to put more water to get that to flow, you really have to put a lot of water down for that paint to flow right. So don't be afraid of using lots of water. Now I'm moving it horizontally again, back and forth to get that paint and water to flow and mix. I'm going to move it vertically to move up and down to get those edges the way I like them. And I'm looking at the flow of the paint. Let's say here, if I get a little area that I want to fix up, I just take a tissue while it's still wet and just pick that up. Okay? And that'll happen. just a little more shadow pattern at the bottom of the trees. So I'm going to add a little more blue in here. The closer I get, the little denser I get, a little denser pattern, closer to the paper. Let's try it one more time. Okay, at this stage, when the paint is still wet and it's still runny, this is the time to experiment and to kind of play with the water and the paint flow. And what I'm doing here is just moving it back and forth, up and down. And you can see you can change the shapes. You can add more color. Now here, if I want to, I can go back in and I can add in more color on top of this to add more shadows, add them a little more value. But this is what I call the creation phase. And then you're gonna have paint that's gonna move. Just have yourself a little tissue to mop it up. Okay. The longer you let it dry, the more control you'll have over the flow. But right now, if you move it around too much, it's going to get out of control. So I'm going to bring in another painting that I've done earlier. An earlier one that I did. And it's still a little damp, but you can see now it's starting to set up. And what I like about it is the texture here I have in the leaves, in the tops of the trees, and also they added the darker green at the bottom. Now, if I let it dry, I can also tilt the paper a little bit, which I did. Give it a little hang up. I can tilt it a little bit, and the paint will flow down at the bottom to give you a darker edge at the bottom, which would be the shadow area. So with the three colors that I've used, the yellow, cobalt blue, and the green, and with just water, just the spray bottles, I have created a tree line which can be used in art in the background. Now what I found that doing this technique with the dot spray bottles is that it's a little bit scary sometimes to move the paint, but when you move it around, you can see the flow of the paint. It's very exciting to see the changes. Okay, and by adding more color on top, this is not finished. You can go from here and add more paint on top of what you have. And then, as I say, this is really an exciting way to paint, and I'm looking forward to doing more with it in my art. So I'll see you in the next movie, which will be Crashing Wave. See you then.